in last lecture we have seen some properties of Riemann integrable functions. Okay, so now we will see some example based on that properties. Okay, so the first example is, if we have given a function which is continuous on the closed and bounded interval AB. Okay, and the function is bounded, that is the mod of function is less equal some k. Okay, for every value of x in AB, that is function is bounded on the interval AB. Okay, then prove that the mod of integration of f is less equal k times d minus a. Okay, so very easy example. Okay. Now see, we have given f is continuous. Okay, so we have given f is continuous function. Okay. Now since f is continuous, the mod of that function is obviously continuous. Okay, this implies mod f also continuous. And we know every continuous functions is Riemann integrable. Okay, continuous and bounded functions are Riemann integrable over the interval. This implies function f and mod of the functions are Riemann integrable for this interval from a to b. Okay, so we get that these two functions are Riemann integrable. Now we know the property of the Riemann integral functions related to mod. What is the property? The property is that mod of integration of the function f is less equal to the integration of the mod of function. We know this property of integration. Okay, this general property of integration is shows that mod of integration is always less equal to integration of mod. Okay, but our function f of x is bounded and always less equal k. So we will replace this f of x by k. Okay, so this implies, so LHS as it is. So mod of integration of the function f is less equal to this. Okay, but function f of x is bounded by k, so we can replace this by value. So this is less equal. So this is less equal to integration of mod f, but again mod f less equal k. So this is less equal to, again this is less equal to the integration from a to b. So mod f less equal k. So again this is less equal, replace mod f by k into dx. Why I written this? Since our function is less equal k over the interval AB. Okay, so we have replaced the value of f of x by k. Okay, since k is greater than f of x, this integration is less equal integration of k into dx. Okay, so now k is constant, we can take it outside. So this is less equal to k outside the integration from a to b dx. Okay, and the integration of dx is x, and the upper limit is b, lower limit is a. So this integration is equal to k into d minus a. So this implies the integration is less equal k into d minus a. So here is easy example. So friends, now we will see one very important theorem regarding integration. The theorem is, we have given a function f which is continuous and non-negative, that is greater or equal to the 0 on the interval a to b, and there is some point, say c, in the interval a to b such that at that point function is strictly positive. Then we have to show the whole integration of the function from a to b is always greater than 0. Okay, so it's very interesting theorem. Okay. In general, we know if function is continuous and greater or equal to 0, its integration is always greater or equal to 0. But if function is positive, that is strictly positive, strictly greater than 0, at even one point of the interval, then its integration is not only greater or equal to 0, it is strictly greater than 0. This is the main part of this step. Okay. So we have given function here, please. Continuous on AB. Okay. Function is continuous on the interval AB, and function is greater or equal to 0. Now since function is continuous, its Riemann integral, and since it is greater or equal to 0, we know its integration must be greater or equal to the 0. So this implies function is Riemann integrable, and its integration from a to b of the function is greater or equal to the 0. We know function is continuous, so function is Riemann integrable, and since function is always greater or equal to 0, its integration is always greater or equal to the 0. But here they are saying that function is strictly positive at some point. Then we have to prove this integration is strictly greater than 0, not only greater or equal to the 0. Okay. So there is some point in between a and b. Okay. So C belongs to the open interval a to b. So that means C lies between a and b. Okay. So we have a point C. Okay. So there is a point C in the interval a to b, such that at that point function is positive. Okay. And you know one property of continuous function. If function is continuous, okay, if function is continuous and strictly positive at some point, okay, if function is continuous and strictly positive at some point, okay, then function is remain positive in some neighborhood of that point. Okay, if suppose this is the point C, and you can see function is positive at point C, and function is continuous, then function remain continuous in some neighborhood of C. Okay, so we can find some short interval about C or neighborhood around C, so that function remain positive in that neighborhood. Okay, this is very famous property of continuous function, that is, if function is continuous and positive at some point, then function remain positive in some neighborhood about that point C. Okay. So since function is continuous and there is some point in the interval AB such that at that point function is strictly positive. So by property of continuous functions, okay. So by property of continuous functions, by property of continuous function, so there exists a delta greater than 0 and some positive number greater than 0, such that function is greater than m and m is greater than 0, that is, function is positive in the interval around C, that whenever x belongs to C minus delta and C plus delta. So function remains positive, that is greater than m, in the neighborhood of the point C. That is, suppose this is the point C, this is C minus delta, and this is C plus delta. Okay. So in this interval, function remains positive. Okay. So suppose this is our interval A to B. This is the point C. Then function is greater than m, that is strictly greater than 0 in the these subintervals, which is C minus delta to C plus delta. That is, function is strictly positive in this subinterval. Here function is greater or equal to 0. Here function is greater or equal to 0. But here function is strictly greater than 0. Okay. So now since function is continuous or its interval or whole interval, so function is integrable in each subintervals. Okay. So function is Riemann integrable. So this applies. See, function is continuous on whole interval. Then function is continuous in each subinterval. Function is integrable in each subintervals. Okay. So this applies. And every continuous function is Riemann integrable. So function is Riemann integrable over each subinterval. So this applies. Function is Riemann integrable over the interval a to c minus delta. A to c minus delta. Okay. Also, function is Riemann integrable. So we can write here intersection. So Riemann integrable over the subinterval c minus delta to c plus delta. Okay. Over the subinterval c minus delta to c plus delta. Again, function is Riemann integrable over c plus delta to d, or c plus delta to d. Okay. And Riemann integration of the function over whole interval is equal to the addition of the integration over each subinterval. That is, Riemann integration of the function from a to b is equal to the integration of the function over this subinterval plus integration over this subinterval plus integration over this subinterval. So plus integration from a to c minus delta of the function plus integration from c minus delta to c plus delta of the function plus integration from c plus delta to b. Okay. So this is one subinterval, this is one subinterval, this is another subinterval. Okay. So integration over a to b is equal to integration over a to c minus delta to c plus delta, and plus integration over last subinterval c plus delta to b. So c plus delta to b. But function is greater or equal to 0 in this subinterval and this subinterval. So integration is greater or equal to 0. Okay. So integration over a to c minus delta is greater or equal to 0. Similarly, integration over this last subinterval, that is c plus delta to b, is also greater or equal to 0. Why? Because function is greater or equal to 0. Okay. So we will write this. So here integration from a to c minus delta of the function and integration from c plus delta to b of the function are greater or equal to 0, because function is greater or equal to 0 in this subinterval and function is greater or equal to 0 in this subinterval, and we know the function is continuous and greater or equal to 0, then integration is greater or equal to 0. So this integration and these integrations are greater or equal to 0. But in this subinterval, function is strictly greater than 0. That is greater than some positive number m. Okay. So this integration from c minus delta to c plus delta of the function is what is greater or equal to the, but so see, function in this interval is strictly greater than m. So this integration is strictly greater than from integration from c minus delta to c plus delta. The function is strictly greater than m. Okay. So m into dx, but if m is constant, we can take outside. This is equal to m integration from integration of dx is x, and limits from c minus delta to c plus delta. So put value of x as c plus delta minus c minus delta. So c minus c get cancelled. Delta minus delta, so plus delta. This becomes delta plus delta to delta. So this is becomes 2 times m into delta. Okay. This integration is greater than this 2m delta, and these two integrations are greater or equal to 0. So put these values here. So integration from a to b of the function is equal to, now this integration is greater or equal to 0. So we write here greater or equal to, this greater or equal to the 0. Now this is greater than, this integration is equal to the twice m delta. Okay. So it becomes twice m delta, and this integration is greater equal to the 0. Okay, this integration is greater than twice m delta. This integration is greater equal to 0. This integration is greater equal to 0. So total integration of the function is greater equal to twice m delta, but m is strictly positive, delta is strictly positive. So twice m delta also strictly positive. So this addition is strictly positive. This 0 plus 0 becomes 0. This is strictly greater than 0. This integration is strictly greater than 0. So we will get from integration of the function is strictly greater than 0 over the interval a to b. Okay. Now we will see a corollary based on a previous theorem. Okay. So the corollary is if there is continuous functions on the interval ab and function is greater equal to 0, that is function is non-negative, and integration of function is equal to 0, then that function is identically 0, that is function is a 0 function. Okay, so what this corollary is saying, if this function is continuous, non-negative, and its integration is equal to 0, then function must be a 0 function. Okay, so we will prove this. Okay, now we will prove this theorem or corollary using method of contradiction. Okay, so first we have given, so function f is continuous function, f is continuous function. Okay, this implies continuous function on closed and bounded interval. So this implies function f is Riemann integrable on the interval ab. Moreover, function is non-negative on the interval ab. So we know that the integration of this function must be greater equal to 0. The function is continuous, the function is integrable, and function is non-negative, it is greater equal to 0. This implies integration of the function on the interval is greater equal to the 0. Okay. Now, what they are saying, if integration is equal to 0, then function is equal to 0. Okay. So we will contradictory assume that function is not equal to 0. So on contrary, we are proving this corollary using the method of contradiction. Okay. So we will assume that this function not equal to 0. So in method of contradiction, we have to assume a thing which is not true. That is, we have to prove f is equal to 0. That is f is 0 function. And on contrary, we are assuming that function is not a 0 function. Okay. So on contrary, assume the function is not equal to 0. That is, function is not a 0 function. Okay. Means function is greater equal to 0 and function is not equal to 0. That means there is at least one point such that at that point function is strictly positive. Okay. See, since function is not identically 0 and greater equal to 0, this means there is at least one point C in the interval AB. At that point function must be positive. Okay. So since function is not equal to 0 and always take positive values, there exists a point C in the interval AB such that at that point function is strictly positive. Okay. Now see, function is continuous, non-negative, and there is a point C such that at that point function is strictly positive. So by previous theorem, we conclude that this integration of the function from a to b must be strictly positive. Just you are seeing theorem. Theorem says if function is continuous greater or equal to 0 and there is some point C in the interval AB such that at that point integration is strictly positive. Sorry, at that point function is strictly positive. The integration of the function is also strictly positive. So we are just seeing theorem, but this is the contradiction to our hypothesis. But they are given that the integration is given as 0 and we are getting integration strictly positive. So this is contradiction. But this is contradiction contradiction to our hypothesis. Okay, our hypothesis is integration is equal to 0 and we are getting integration is greater than 0. This is contradiction. So our assumption that function not equal to 0 was wrong. Okay, so our assumption, what we assume, that function is not equal to 0 is wrong because we are getting contradiction in our hypothesis. So our assumption that function not equal to 0 is wrong. This implies function is must be equal to 0. That is, f is 0 function. Okay. This is the proof of our code theory. Now we will see some example based on the theorem we have just seen. Okay. So we have to prove that integration of 8 power of cos x is less than 0 when integration is found 1 to minus 1. Now we know function cos function always lies between minus 1 and 1. Okay. Now it is 8 power, so even power always greater or equal to 0. Okay. And cos function we know continuous, you know the graph for cos, sin, it is okay. So cos function is always continuous on this interval. Okay. So we have cos 8 power of cos is continuous on the interval minus 1 to 1. Since cos 8 raised to power 8 is always continuous, it is Riemann integrable. Okay. Also, since cos lies between minus 1 and 1, its even power always get equal to 0. Okay. So cos 8 power of cos always get equal to 0 on the interval minus 1 to 1. The function is continuous, function is get equal to 0. So we know its integration also get equal to 0. Okay. Since cos is continuous, it is Riemann integrable and integration is get equal to 0. This implies 8 power of cos x is Riemann integrable on minus 1 to 1 and its integration from minus 1 to 1 is greater equal to 0. Okay. But when a cos function is not identically equal to 0, cos takes values minus 1 to 1. So even power takes the value from 0 to 1. So cos is raised to power 8 not identically equal to 0. So there is at least one point at that point cos raised to power 8x takes the positive value. So by previous theorem we know this integration is not greater equal to 0, it is strictly greater than 0. Okay. Since 8 power of cos is not identically 0 on minus 1 to 1, this integration is strictly greater than 0. This implies, okay. So since it is not identically 0, this integration from minus 1 to 1 of the 8 power of cos is strictly greater than 0. By the theorem we have just seen. Theorem says if function is continuous greater or equal to 0 and there is some point at which function is positive, that is function is not identically 0, the integration is always strictly greater than 0. This integration is greater than 0. Now we want integration from 1 to minus 1. Here integration from minus 1 to 1. So what we can do? So we know if we interchange the limits, then integration changes its sign. So if integration is plus, it becomes minus. So this integration was first greater than 0. If we interchange the sign, okay, then integration becomes minus. So sign get changed to less than. Okay, it was greater than 0, so it becomes less than 0. So this implies integration from 1 to minus 1 of 8 power of cos x dx is less than 0. Okay. Since we have changed the sign here, this will only get changed. Positive integration become negative. Okay, due to change of sign, change of limit, sign get changed. Okay, so we have to prove this. Now, the similar way we can prove this. Okay, we know e raised to power x or e raised to power x square, it is a continuous function. Okay, it is always continuous. Actually, it is continuous everywhere in R, but we only have to focus on 0 to 1. It's continuous on 0 to 1. Okay. Also, this function e raised to power x is never negative. It always get equal to 0. We know the graph for e raised to power x, like this exponential graph, always get equal to 0 for any value of x. Okay. So this it is continuous on 0 to 1. This implies e raised to power x square is Riemann integrable on 0 to 1. Okay. Also, e raised to power x square is always greater equal to 0. Okay. But we know this function e raised to x square not identically 0. It is strictly greater than 0 for many points. If you put x is equal to 0, then e raised to power 0 become 1. It is greater than 0. So e raised to power x square, the function which is greater than 0 for at least one point in the interval. Actually, it is greater than 0 for every point. So and we have e raised to power x square is not. So first we will write based on this. Okay. So this is for e raised to power x continuous, it is Riemann integrable and it is greater equal to 0. So we know its integration from 0 to 1 is greater equal to 0. But we know this function e raised to power x square not equal to 0 function, it's not until equal to 0. It is positive for many points. Okay, since e raised to power x square is greater than 0 or is not identically 0, this integration is must be greater than 0, strictly greater than 0 by the theorem you are just seeing. Okay, this implies this integration must be strictly greater than 0 to 1 e raised to power x square dx must be strictly greater than 0. It must be 1. Okay, so this theorem makes this type of example very easy to solve. The next example is to show integration of x upon 1 plus x to the power 4 is greater than 2 by 17 and less than 1 by 2, where integration is from 1 to 2. So here our function is x upon 1 plus x to the power 4, defined on the interval 1 to 2. Now you can quickly observe that this function is more than decreasing. Okay, as denominator goes on increasing, the value of x to the power also increases. Okay, so as value of x increases, denominator goes on increasing, so the value of the numerator upon denominator, so value of function goes on decreasing. Okay, so the supreme value of the function is we will get at this left end point, and mean value we will get at the right end point, because this function is decreasing. If you put higher value of x, you will get lower value of function. Okay, so in this interval 2 is the highest value, so if you put 2 is in the function, you will get minimum value, and 1 is minimum value, so if you put 1 in the function, you will get higher value, maximum value, since function decreasing. Okay, so f is monotone decreasing function. Okay, so supremum of f of x occurs at x is equal to 1. So put x is equal to 1. So 1 upon 1 plus 1 raised to the power 4. 1 raised to the power 4 is 1. So 1 plus 1, 2. So supremum of f is 1 by 2. And infimum of f of x occurs at x is equal to, put x is equal to here. So 2 upon 1 plus 2 raised to the power 4. 2 raised to the power 4 is 16 plus 1, 17. Here x is equal to 2. So 2 upon 17. Okay. Since this is minimum value of the function and this is maximum value of the function, so function lies between these two values. Okay. So we have 2 by 17 is infimum value, na? So 2 by 17 is always less equal to the function, and function is always less equal to the maximum value, which is supremum, which is 1 by 2. So we get this relation. Okay. But we can see this function is not identically equal to 2 by 17 or not identical to 1 by 2. It equal to 2 by 17 only at one point, that is at x is equal to is equal to y 17 and is equal to x is equal to 1 by 2. So it equal to 1 by 2 and x is equal to 1. So function these three functions are not identically equal. These two functions, function f of x is equal to y 17 at only one point and is equal to 1 by 2 at only one point. So this any of the two are not identically equal. Okay. So f of x is not identically equals to 2 by 17 and not to 1 by 2. Function is not identically equal to 2 by 17 and not identically equal to 1 by 2 because our function is x upon 1 plus x to the power 4. It equal to 2 by 17 at only one point and equal to 1 by 2 at only one point. So these two are not equal exactly. These two are not equal. Okay. So function f of x is not identically equal to this, not identically equal to this. This less equal become strictly less than by a theorem we have seen. This implies. So first we will write before that. Since this is the inequality, from this we can write integration of 2 by 17 from 1 to 2 is less equal integration of f of x, that is x upon 1 plus x to the power 4 from 1 to 2, and this is less equal to the, since function is greater equal to this, its integration is greater equal to integration of 2 by 17. The function is less equal to 1 by 2, integration of function is less equal to integration of 1 by 2. This is less equal to the integration of half of dx 1 by 2. So this statement we have tried here. Since any two of the functions are not identically equal, this less equal integration is must be strictly less than. Okay. So from this statement we can write that this less equal, instead of being less equal we will use strictly less than because they are not identically equal. This implies integration from 1 to 2 of 2 by 17 is strictly less than integration from 1 to 2 of x upon 1 plus x to the power 4, and it is strictly less than integration from 1 to 2 half of dx. Okay. Now what is this integration? 2 by 17 we can take outside and integration of dx. This implies 2 by 17 integration of dx is less than integration of 1 to 2 integration of 1 plus 1 upon x to the power 4 is less than, we can take half outside, integration of 1 to 2 into dx. Now integration of dx is x and limits are 2 and 1. So integration of dx is x. So put upper limit 2 minus lower limit 1. 2 minus 1 1. So 1 into 2 by 17 is 2 by 17 is less than integration from 1 to 2 x upon 1 plus x to the power 4, which is less than 1 by 2 as it is. Integration of dx is x. So upper limit is 2, lower limit is 1. So integration of dx is x. Put x is equal to 2. So 2 minus lower limit 1. So 2 minus 1 1 into 1 by 2 is 1 by 2. So we get our required inequality. Okay. So this is the use of theorem you have seen. Okay.